Okay, I know, you caught me singing the Scent Geeks theme tune again. I know, it's annoying. But does the punishment really fit the crime? I've got to sell 10 fragrances. Word to your mother, my name's Steve, Channel's Fragrance Twitches. Thanks for tuning in, I do appreciate it. Now today I'm going to show you 10 fragrances that definitely not my wife, but I have decided to sell. Now I don't want to spend too long on this, so I'm going to whiz through the fragrances when we get to them, but the only preamble that I'm going to give you is that I like all of these fragrances. So when you comment below going, oh, I can't believe you sent it, whatever, do bear in mind that I do genuinely like all of these fragrances. That's why they were in my collection, and that's why I've not sold them up until now. The reason I've decided to sell is because my shelves are genuinely getting really quite full and I'm running out of space. Also, I've got quite a lot of fragrances that I absolutely adore. So I think, why wear fragrances that I just like or even really like? I might as well wear fragrances that I absolutely love. And then the other things that I've factored in is, have I worn these fragrances at all? Have I got other fragrances that do the same thing better? So there's a lot of factors involved, but ultimately here's 10 fragrances that I've decided to sell. The first fragrance is probably not going to be much of a surprise to anybody. It is Coach Blue. Now this is a recent pickup, it's a blind buy, and you can see I've actually worn a fair bit of it, but it's really nice. As I said in my last video, it just doesn't add anything to the Coach line, doesn't add anything to my collection. So yeah, this is a catch and release type job. I think everybody saw that coming, so no need to dwell on that one, is there? The second fragrance I've decided to sell is a house that was #1 on my summer fragrance list. It is the house of Zegna, but I'm selling Zegna Milan. So this is my first fig-based fragrance. This is a subscriber recommendation, and this is really nice. I like it. It's very kind of fresh. And it's sort of clean, and I think my wife even sort of commented that this smelled nice, but it just doesn't excite me. I think I've sort of basically decided that fig just isn't an exciting accord for me. So yeah, don't think I'll be sort of pursuing any more fig-based fragrances anyway. I'm not saying that I've written off fig, but I just think it's not an accord that particularly excites me, so it's not one that I'm going to pursue, I'd say. So yeah, second fragrance is Zegna Milan. The next fragrance I've decided to sell is a fragrance from the House of Diesel, and it is Only the Brave Tattoo. Now, I'll say this about every fragrance on the list, I do genuinely like this fragrance. I love the red apple. It's kind of sweet, but not too sweet. I find it as a very sort of pleasant, comforting kind of scent, and it's one that my little boy actually really likes. He kind of always says that I smell nice whenever I wear this, so I do kind of like it, and I like it for that kind of reason as well. But ultimately it's not a exciting fragrance. It's a very safe, very pleasant fragrance, and it's the sort of fragrance that if I only owned a handful of fragrances, I would happily use this up before I bought the next one. That's not a problem, but the fact that I've got so many in my collection, this is just not getting that much attention, so I think I'm just going to kind of let it go. And truth be told, it is obviously a little bit kind of synthetic, and it is not the sort of highest quality of fragrance, but certainly not that I'm a niche snob at all, because I do really like this. But yeah, I think it's just, with my massive collection, this is just kind of getting pushed to the back of the shelf, so I might as well clear that space for a new one. So I'm saving the more shocking / interesting fragrances to the end, because I think there's definitely a couple that will really surprise you. So stay tuned for those. But next up, I'm going to sell Zara's Weekend till 8 PM. Again, it's a similar story to the last fragrance actually. This is a very pleasant kind of fruity fragrance. I find this is quite unisex actually, because the fruitiness in this comes across as quite sort of sweet, and I guess some might say girly, but I just think it's sort of perfectly unisex. It's just a very kind of fun, easy to wear fragrance. I always imagine wearing in this kind of at barbecues and kind of gatherings with friends, etc. But I've just found that this has been pushed to the back of my shelf, and it just doesn't really get anywhere. So I've only worn this a couple of times really, apart from when I first got it and I tested it. Since then, it's not really had much attention. Again, it's a very nice kind of fragrance, but interestingly, I have just made a Zara fragrance haul. kind of purchase, so they should be coming soon, so stay out for that, just kind of keep a lookout for that video. But yeah, Zara weekend till 8 PM. This is only about £9.99 kind of retail, so I don't think I'm going to get much money for this, but again, it's more about clearing shelf space. Next up is another recent purchase, and it is Penhaligon's Quercus. So most of you saw that I only kind of got this a couple of weeks ago, and I managed to get a really good bargain on this. I got this for like 20 quid. So selling this, I'm hoping I might actually turn a profit on it, to be honest, how much money I smell. Now, the reason I'm selling this, again, genuinely like this, very nice smell, but it's just a bit too similar to CK1 for me, which is not a bad thing because I like CK1. I think that's the problem. I used to wear CK1 a lot, and I'm talking a lot. It used to be my signature scent for kind of daytime / office. So I used to buy the big 200ml bottles of CK1, and I went through at least 2 of those 200ml bottles, plus another 2 100ml bottles, I think. So in my time, I've probably done over like half a litre of CK1, which is fucking ridiculous when I think about it. So for me, this, I'm sort of just done with this scent. I don't need to smell this anymore. I've had my lifetime supply of this kind of smell. And I'm not saying this is an exact copy of CK1. As I mentioned in the video, it certainly has some similarities. It's smoother, a bit more sophisticated, obviously better quality. But the performance isn't good either. But yeah, I just don't need to smell like this. I've smelled this scent enough in my lifetime. So I think I'm just going to catch and release this one and hopefully maybe even turn a profit. So yeah. Penhaligon's Quercus. Next up is a fragrance that was one of my sort of real gateway fragrances, actually. So in some ways I've kind of got an emotional attachment to it for that reason, which is why I thought about keeping it. But again, I just found that I don't wear it that often. This is one of those fragrances that, again, it's been pushed to the back of the shelf, and it's kind of like a football manager where you bring in your newer, better players and you start kind of filtering out the old ones. And this is one of those kind of footballers that are coming up to retirement, I think. So for me, it's got to go. It is Burberry Touch. If anybody's not smelt this, I urge you to. Well, you can buy it from me, but it does smell really good. I love it. It's got a bit of everything. It's a little bit spicy. It's a little bit kind of floral. It's got some nice powderiness to it. It's a genuinely great sort of signature scent type thing, but I've wore it quite a bit when I first got it and I loved it, but I've sort of just moved on a little bit and I just don't reach for it very often. So again, need to clear some shelf space. So I'm going to stick with the House of Burberry, and the next fragrance I'm going to flip is Burberry Brit Rhythm Intense. Now, anybody that's followed the channel for a long while, you'll know that I love this fragrance, and to be honest, I still do. This really grew on me, and I think I even featured it in a video of fragrances that I would rebuy when I finished it. Well, I've not finished it and I'm not going to rebuy it because I'm going to sell it. But again, this is just one of the older players that I got kind of near the start of my sort of fragrance collection. It just has been pushed back and I don't wear it very often, but I think it's a bagging fragrance, to be honest. A bit like Burberry Touch, it's got a bit of everything. There's quite a lot of perfumers involved in this, and I've said it before, it's a little bit like a fragrance designed by committee because it's got a bit of everything. There's a bit of sweetness, there's a bit of spice, there's a bit of powderiness. So there's something for everybody in this fragrance, and I do really like it. I did ruin it for myself a little bit. One time when we went out on a day trip, I over-applied this and it was really strong in the car. The wife was kind of choking out and I felt bad, and it sort of ruined it a little bit for me because it was kind of almost choking me out of it. So it was my own fault. And since then it's kind of scarred me a little bit. It's put me off the fragrance a little bit, which is a shame. But yeah, ultimately I just don't reach for it very often. I don't know if it's because of that reason, but yeah, I do sort of really like this fragrance. It's a great kind of office fragrance because if you don't go too heavy like I did, it's just a nice amount of kind of sweet, sort of pleasant cleanness. So yeah, it's a great fragrance. Highly recommend it, but it's got to go, it's got to go. Right, this is where it gets interesting because the next fragrance is going to shock a lot of people because it's at the top of like loads of most complimented fragrances. Whenever you get reaction videos, it's the fragrance that women love. It is like the panty dropper, bollock tickler, face sitter, the one, the only, Dolce & Gabbana, the one. Shock horror. I mean, you can see that I've actually worn quite a bit of this, but When I first smelt this fragrance in store, there was a lot of hype around it, and when I first smelt it, it was a bit of an anticlimax. I was a bit disappointed. I was like, is that it? And then a few months later, I saw it came up in a kind of quite a good deal. I got a package deal. I bought a few fragrances and got so much off, and I included this one. I thought I'd add it to my collection, and I've worn it quite a lot. And it is a really nice fragrance. My wife likes this one, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. But for whatever reason, this has never really resonated with me, and I don't know why. Because if I was to review it and assess it and break it down, it ticks every box. It smells really good. Women love it. I really like it, but there's something, it just doesn't resonate with me, and I don't know what it is. I can't put it into words. I just don't get excited by it, and for that reason I just don't reach for it very often. Strangely enough, I don't feel like that kind of confident wearing it as such. I don't know if it comes down to skin chemistry, where it just doesn't really work for me, and doesn't my skin doesn't bring out the best in this fragrance, perhaps, I don't know. But for whatever reason, this has never really truly resonated with me. I've kind of gone through the motions, I've worn it, and it works and it's nice, but it's been pushed to the back and I never reach for it anymore. So I think I might as well just flip it, really, because it's just going to kind of sit there. The only reason I thought about keeping it is because if I do ever film one of those bloody women's reactions videos and most complimented, this kind of has to be in it, doesn't it? But yeah, Dolce & Gabbana, the one. It's going, mate. Right, 2 shockers left now. I'm selling a fragrance from the house of Bulgari. I know, who'd have thought it, hey? To be fair, I will probably take a little small decant of this just to keep it for comparisons and references, and it is a nice fragrance, and I do like it. And I've got a massive bottle. It's Bulgari Man in Black Essence. Now, I do really like this fragrance. Don't think that I don't. And I stand by everything I said about it. I do really like it. It was a blind buy. To be fair, I probably didn't need to get the massive bottle, but I think it's limited edition. I can't remember. I think it only came in this size, or it worked out kind of cheaper. But this is a really good fragrance. This is weird for me to kind of sell this one, to be honest. But I think the reason I'm selling it is because it's not garnered that many positive reactions. I've not had a great response from this. I've never had anybody kind of turn their nose up, per se, but I really like this. So this is like Man in Black. They've they've lost the sort of boozy rum note from Man in Black, and it's a bit kind of smooth and a bit more powdery, and it comes across, it's still got some of the spice, but I get this sort of chocolatey kind of vibe, this chocolatey accord to it, which I really love. It's a lovely kind of smooth, kind of, let's say, almost chocolatey fragrance. But I've not got great reactions from it, and that sort of makes me a little bit conscious wearing it. So that's kind of ruined it for me. So it's kind of, now don't get me wrong, there's some fragrances that like my wife doesn't like she doesn't like Victor & Rolf Spice Bomb, for example. But I love it, so I wear it. So I'm not always affected by kind of reactions and people's response. Sometimes I often wear fragrances for me. So don't start going, oh, you know, wear it for you, don't be, change the compliment, fuck off. But I've worn this, my wife's not a big fan of this one. I thought she would be, because she loves chocolate, so I thought she might like the chocolate accord, but she's not so much. I also wore this to work, and one of my female colleagues kind of got in the car, and she was, again, perhaps I'd over-applied it. I'm guilty of that sometimes, as I mentioned earlier. And she kind of, but I didn't think it was particularly strong, so I don't think it was kind of choking, but she could kind of smell it. And she's a bit critical. There's not many fragrances she likes, to be fair, but she was kind of like, yeah, she goes, oh, if I was in a long, you know, we was only driving around the corner or whatever. She said, if I was in the car with you for a long time, I'd struggle. I'd have to kind of have some breaks or something, because she was not kind of feeling this at all. And I've never picked up any compliments from it, as I say, so it's kind of dented my confidence with it. And as I say, there's some fragrances that I just love and I don't care what people think, and I'll just wear them for me because I enjoy them. But unfortunately, this isn't strong enough a feeling for me to override the kind of lack of positive response I've had for it. So it's just dented my confidence a little bit, but I will probably take a little decant of this to keep it as an option and for comparisons with the other Bulgari kind of Man in Black lines. So yeah, Bulgari, I'm selling, I'm sorry. It's kind of my little Bulgari collection, is my baby. Anyway, yeah, so Bulgari, it's Man in Black Essence. So the next one is going to shock you. Brace yourselves. I'm selling Emporio Armani diamonds. I'm not even joking, but it is the black Carat version. So as you know, I'm not going to talk too much. It's Armani diamonds means a lot to me. The original, the OG with the clear bottle, which I've got. So I don't need this one. I've got a diamonds rocks, which I like to wear in the summer, and I've got the original diamonds, which has got a lot of history for me. I was wearing it when I met my wife and when we got married, etc. You've heard it all a million times, I know. So I bought this in a Black Friday deal, and I really enjoyed this. This is kind of like a more mature kind of version of diamonds. It loses some of that sweetness. And it's kind of a little bit kind of woodier, so it's kind of a bit more of the mature, sophisticated version. So I was happy, and I included this in my 10 fragrances for life. But then I got the original Armani diamonds. I got a bottle of that, and side by side I prefer that one a little bit more, and it's got obviously the history, and so yeah, I think I'm just going to kind of flip this one and clear some space. So yeah, if you want to try Armani diamonds, one of my fragrance loves, you can buy this from me. So there you go, there's 10 fragrances that I've decided to sell. Little does the wife know that I've already ordered 3 fragrances this week. So it's not moving forward, am I? But anyway, if you are interested in any, ping me an email below and we can sort out a price. I'm not going to kind of give them away for nothing, but I'm sure we can come up with a fair deal. But otherwise, they will be going on my eBay. There's a £1 selling weekend, so yeah. Thanks for watching. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like and all that shit, you know the score, and I will see you for the next video. Take care, much love.